They say I shouldn't care what other people think. They show that they for certainly do. You want your sins removed from my YouTube channel? Well, too bad. There's only one chance for that. It's not ever going to be removed. I might make it private. Might make it private. But that depends on you. And the fact is, if you want me to take down your admission of your sins, you're going to have to admit to your sins. So, how's that going to work out? What, you want a redo? You think you should be allowed that opportunity? After forcing me to record you and put it up on the internet because you were too cowardly to come forward in court? Too cowardly to make a police report? If those things are true, why did you try so hard to get it taken down? Good question, huh? There's lots of people on my YouTube channel that don't like being there. They don't like their words being up. They don't like the things that they said about others. Oh, they sure liked them at the time, but they don't like the fact that now people know what they said. How about instead of playing head games, you come correct? Natalie Bollinger had the chance to come forward and tell the truth. All of these people did. And these people couldn't even admit that I'd gone to them for help, or that they'd offered to help and simply could not keep their word because, well, mostly drugs and alcohol. But also sex. Sex is important. Not to me, but to all of you. And of course, not literally all of you. There are other people like me who just aren't interested. My experience with those kind of interactions has never been positive. Since it's never been positive, why would I want to go do such a thing? Why would I want to take part in such activities? It don't make no sense. And because it don't make no sense, I don't take part. You can choose to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. To put yourself in someone else's shoes. Or you can be selfish and greedy and only pretend to care so that you can gain access to someone's resources and to rob them of said resources. A lot of people tried to have their words removed. Words that show that they played head games. If they were telling the truth, that needs to be in court. If they were lying to me, that needs to be in court as well. But that doesn't happen when you're a homeless male. It's just assumed that you must be guilty. Public pretenders are not on your side. Police are not on your side. Now that business owner guy here, I gotta tell you, I did not call 911 because I gave a holy fuck about his business. I called 911 because Daniel was bleeding profusely. And apparently they told him at the hospital that he was lucky that I called because he would have bled out. So, you're welcome. I talked to Daniel this morning. He prefers to be called Daniel. He does not like Danny. Does not particularly enjoy being called Dano. Other than believing he owns all this different property around here, he actually seems pretty sane when you sit down and actually talk to him. It's when he starts talking about owning all the businesses around here that everybody looks at him like he's nuts. The funny thing is, he's actually researched the law on this, and according to the law in the state of Oregon, he actually does, well, every citizen in Oregon actually does own part of these businesses, which is odd to me. I'm not a citizen of Oregon, so I guess Daniel is a citizen of Oregon. It's a really old law. It's based on the same ideas as going to Alaska, and once you've lived there a certain amount of years, they give you a certain amount of money. And they used to actually do that. I've been told that Alaska doesn't do that anymore. They don't want their population growing anymore. But I don't know for certain. I don't live in Alaska, so I didn't bother looking it up. Now, the law is still on the books. It's just not in use. That's because it's a really old law, like I said. Basically, the idea was that it was not okay for one mercantile to basically be the monopoly in the area, and for them to basically grab up everybody's money but not expend that money back towards the community. So Oregon made laws way, way back in the day saying that a portion of that funding has to go back to the community. The Greeks did the same thing, believe it or not. The Greeks, when there was a public work, it was actually paid for by the merchant class. The people would vote to build something, and then the merchants would be required to actually build the thing, to actually finance it. And in exchange for financing it, they would get more business. That's kind of what the bid system was for. Let's say you were one of the major construction companies that originally built the Parthenon or the Pantheon in Rome. Kind of a similar concept. Similar concept, not exactly the same. So for Daniel, knowing that law, well, there's like a set of 3 different laws that are all regarding that. 2 of them are to protect the citizens of Oregon, and one of them is to protect the business owner from being overfleeced by the citizens of Oregon. Oh, marijuana. No. It's empty. Anyway, there's quite a bit going on in my life. It's expensive. Right now I'm trying to find somebody very specific. I was given some money for musical instruments and told to buy musical instruments. There's no money in my car for musical instruments, so I'm going to spend that money on musical instruments for other people. I think it's strange for somebody to give you money with the stipulation of spending it on something specific. But if they're going to give it to me for that something specific, and I've already had 3 people this morning that I know play instruments, and I walked up to them and told them, hey, I got this budget for instruments. If you play, I can get you an instrument. And they all say, oh, well, I got an instrument, or oh, no, I can't do that. I can't take that from you. Blah this and blah that. And then they all tell me, all 3 of them told me the same thing. Well, you know, instead of spending that on instruments, you should spend that to take care of yourself. Well, wouldn't that be a breach of verbal contract? I mean, if somebody gives me money and says, go spend this on gas, if I go spend it on crack instead, is that a breach of the verbal contract? Actually, yes, it is. When somebody gives me money for something, I'd like to be able to show that person, if I see them again, that I did indeed spend the money on what they told me to spend it on. Of course, if I buy instruments for other people, I can't show those instruments, but people are strange. Like, that quantity of money could help me out a lot. And I could spend it on something else, an investment in something that I could actually do. Because I bought a violin already with the intent of playing it, possibly earning some money, and also rehabilitating my wrists and my fingers. The fingers, it just takes time. They'll fall back into place wherever they need to play. But your wrists just won't work to do it. You can't do it. It's not going to sound right. And a lot of times it produces no sound at all. Just because I can't hold my wrist right, and instead of pulling it across like you're supposed to, it goes across at an angle, kind of like a windshield wiper. And that, if it does make a sound, is really high-pitched squeal. It's a screech. Violin is a beautiful instrument, but when you hit that screech, it's like scratching a chalkboard. Anyway, there's a 3/4 scale violin and a 1/4 scale violin, and then there's one of those little super thin travel guitars. And with the money I was given, I could reasonably buy 2 of those instruments. If they were a little bit cheaper, I might be able to buy 3 because they're all used. But at the same time, if nobody's going to take an instrument, I might as well just, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I wasn't given like $1,000 for instruments. I wasn't even given $100 for instruments. But that's not a complaint. That's there's this budget that I have, and I'd like to fulfill my verbal obligations. I'd also like to find people out here on the streets who will actually take the instrument and play. I know that Logan and Shayna both play, and I don't know if they'd prefer a guitar or a violin. I know that they have very little space, very limited, so a guitar probably is not a good idea. Other than that, we'll just see how the day plays out. I'm going to text Logan and Shayna and see if they want to meet me down there and pick out an instrument. And I'll let them know what options there are. We'll see if they're awake yet. Sometimes they work pretty late at night, so I don't expect them to be up quite yet. When you get out of work around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, or you get out at midnight, and then after work you have to go run errands, and it sucks having to run errands that late at night, but of course there's the stuff that you got your obligations, right? So when you tell your friends you'll be there after work, they work the midnight shift and it's their day off, all sorts of shit goes on. Of course, there's also the fact that there's a nightlife, and if you're not able to see the people that you need to take care of your business during the day, well, they might be out at the bar drinking at 2 o'clock in the morning. And if you know that that's the kind of person they are, that they're probably out at the bar drinking at 2 o'clock in the morning, well, it's actually okay to message them at 2 o'clock in the morning. I've had a lot of people that I decided not to message at 2 o'clock in the morning when I needed help because I figured it was rude. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. So I let them know, hey, I was going to call you last night, or this morning, but I figured it was 2 a.m. Oh, hell, I was out in the garage drinking beer and working on a Chevy. Oh, okay. Anyway, I'll message them and I'll see what they say. They can go in there with me if they want and take a look at the instruments, and well, that's what we'll do. We'll get the instruments. I think I have enough money for 2 of them. I got a budget of $70, which is actually a pretty decent amount. The two instruments that I was looking at, one of them is $25, and the other one is 35. So altogether, that's $60. That'll leave $15 left over for another instrument, sort of. There's also a guitar thing there that's one of the super streamlined ones, and it's $40. So I mean, if I got the 3/4 size violin for 35 and I got the other one for 40 with the lack of taxes here, that'd be $75. That's actually $5 over budget. I do still have a little bit of the money that I got this morning, and that could cover that extra $5, I think. So we'll go down there with Logan and Shayna. We'll let them choose the instrument they want, and then we might get them both instruments because of the lack of room in my vehicle. And I might get the I don't know, I might get the 3/4 scale violin. I don't know. If they decide they want the 3/4 scale one, I can expend an extra $5 to get myself the streamlined guitar. And that's something that I can actually play, not well. I mean, when I played violin, after 3 days of messing with it, I could play literally anything I could hear in my head, I could play on a violin. The guitar is a lot different. With the guitar, you got a very specific movement of the fingers, very specific chords. You're hitting more than one string at a time, or strumming more than one string at a time. Usually with the violin, you're only hitting one string, and there's very special tones for if you're hitting two. I do know one song that it's God, what do they call it? Power chords for the violin. That's what it is. A power chord on the violin is when you're hitting two strings at once. Now there's a way that you can actually hit three strings at once on a violin, but you have to really choke up on the neck on one of the strings. The middle of the three has to be completely depressed so that you can actually hit all three of them. And just a hair's difference is the difference between playing it or not. And it doesn't make a good sound at all. Other than that, I'm trying to maintain a positive attitude. I keep telling myself if I keep moving my body, it's not going to go stiff. But that just ain't the truth. That's me lying to myself, telling myself if I keep on moving. But the reality of it is my body's going to stiffen no matter what. It does not like what I'm doing to it. It doesn't like the expenditure versus the caloric intake. So, having a musical budget, an instrument budget, I wonder if getting a tuner would count. Well, down to 5% battery, it's about to die. So, good to be with you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper, and no victim left behind.